This is AV SuperFriends Off the Rails, an almost regularly scheduled open discussion on audio and video in higher education. We'll sound off about our most brilliant ideas, our dumbest mistakes, and everything in between. And because this conversation will almost certainly go off the rails at some point, we'll end up covering just about everything else. And now, the AV SuperFriends. For September 13th, 2024. Holy crap, it's Friday the 13th. For Friday the 13th, September 2024, 30.
What could go wrong? What could possibly go wrong with this today?
It just struck me as Friday.
24:30?
44th. This is
This is Friday, September 43rd.
Quiet, you're messing me up here. For September 13th, 2024, it's the best sounding podcast in higher ed. This is the AV SuperFriends Off the Rails, and we've already done it.
Struggle bus.
It was deliberate, Justin. Don't poke holes in the theater of sound here. Broadcasting live for real from coast to coast, easternmost to westernmost, northernmost to southernmost, gate post to hitching post. I'm your local host who can boast the most milquetoast and utmost humility. I'm Chris Dector. It's time for another Friday afternoon podcast adventure on Friday the 13th. And let's say hello to... I'll do it in a minute.
Push the button.
Shut up. All right, here. There you go. That's what you wanted.
Jesus.
It was a whole debate. All right.
That person's in a cave.
Let's say hello to today's panel of illustrious AV super friends. So today I'm joined by a dynamic ideation specialist from Kansas City, Jamie Reinhardt.
I got a really special idea.
Is it dynamic?
I'm going to go back to the drawing board. I'll be back.
It's a static ideation specialist. All right. Also joined by a global mobility officer from Corvallis, Oregon, Mark Kolozinski.
Let's get this thing moving around the world, gents. We can do it. Come on.
And finally joined by our Vice President for Central Security from Bowling Green, Kentucky, Justin Rexing.
Gentlemen, don't worry. We've restocked all the ammo. We're good.
Not what that means, but I'm glad that's where you went.
Got all the ammo.
Got all the ammo restocked.
Kentucky.
Why won't you stop? It's stuck. Everything is stuck.
It's Friday the 13th, man.
What is happening here? This whole thing is like freaking out. It's freaking out, man.
We're secure.
All right, so on today's show, we're going to discuss button panels and why we love them or hate them. Also going to discuss why we're overcomplicating our own troubleshooting routines. But first, not the news, it's some housekeeping. So as a reminder, we're trying to do this every show now. We want you to connect with us on the socials. So go find us on the Twitter at AV SuperFriends. We're on LinkedIn. I don't know. Search for AV SuperFriends. We're on LinkedIn. Go to YouTube on AV SuperFriends. We're, hey, there's some branding here. Try to keep up with us there for updates and news and that sort of thing. Also, we if you like what we do, we would love you to go out and spread the word. Go grab a friend, hold them down, tickle them until they start listening to the show. Take their phone away from them and go subscribe, maybe unbeknownst to what they're doing. But if everyone could do that for one or two people, that'd be great. But please tell your friends, your colleagues, your enemies, complete and total strangers about the show because that really helps.
Kind of sounds like a pyramid speaking of
pyramid plans,
speaking
of pyramid plans, if you want to support what we're doing, consider donating.
Send us a nickel.
So if you go to the website or the link is in the show notes. So if you're listening to this on recording, there's a donation link there. You can send us a donation. That keeps us keeps this house of cards held together, and that keeps us bringing you the honest content that you love to hate. So
it's hard hitting,
honest content.
We're really in the red. We're very, very much in the red over here.
That's what
we were in the
pays
black
for
until last week when you emptied the bank account out.
That's what pays for the high-end digital signage in some of our rooms. Like
my Walmart TV was
that one.
$199 at Walmart. We'd love to hear from you if you have ideas for the show, if you have complaints about stuff that we've said, if you'd like to tell us how wrong we are or how right we are. I change those in the email filter automatically. So you put the word wrong, it says right. Send us an email, mailbag at AV SuperFriends. Hit us up on Twitter, LinkedIn, or comments on YouTube. We look for that stuff. We want to hear from you. And finally, while you're on YouTube, Twitter, Spotify, Apple, whatever, wherever you're listening to this as an actual podcast, please rate and review us on there because that helps with the goofball algos to bump this one up. So that's all the fun stuff we need you to do.
That fancy jargon, the algos. Is that what the kids are saying?
I liked that.
Who's algo?
It sounded like, yeah.
You guys have never heard the phrase algos before? Wow.
I think that was
no.
Kind of hole in my
I didn't expect it coming from you.
Educate
one of my
us.
friends, uncles from Eastern Kentucky, Uncle Algo.
All right. So now, because you've waited for it all week, I'm just going to move on. It's time for the news.
We're just moving on. Yeah.
And today's news sort of comes from EdScoop. Link is in the show notes. And if I had another screen, I could get that onto the Twitters, LinkedIn, and all that stuff, but I'm too busy right now, so figure it out. Comes from EdScoop, which is simply referring to somebody else's actual work, but the EdScoop article says, look at this other article. So we're actually going to go to that thing, which is a huge survey done every year by Western Governors University on what teaching faculty think about generically educational technology. Some of it's software-based, some of it hardware, some of it's online hybrid versus, in a classroom, but it's very wide-ranging. It's very detailed and very kind of, it runs the entire gamut here. It covers everything. So short version is people like technology, but they're kind of concerned it's not being used to its full possible capability, I suppose.
It's kind of like they like the idea of technology. They just don't want to be told they have to use it.
You have to use this.
Well, there's a lot coming at them. Can you blame them? They're tired.
Yeah.
We're all tired. I mean, shit, look at us. We're here.
I see it as it's even just the intrinsic pressure of society that everything has to be more techno. We need more techno. We need more techno. And well, yeah, I mean, everything's an app. Everything's on your phone. Everything is available all the time. Everything. And I do see it. I mean, shoot, I kind of agree with the premise too, that I'm so over it when there's times where I go home and I don't want to see another screen. I don't want to be on my phone. I just don't want to do any of it. I'm just burned out with all the extra technology and the fact that I can't I feel like I can't get away from some questions and I can't get it. It's like, leave me alone. It's my time.
There was that piece, right? They feel like they're always connected, always at work, right? In that bottom section there, they're talking about how they're constantly having to communicate. Right? There's questions are coming in, and whether it be Teams or whatever platform of communication you have, you're always at work. It's always on. There's always communication. And so at a certain point, we've kind of blurred those lines between work lives and our identities there and home lives if we're always feeling like people can contact us at all the time. Now, I know people are going to say, oh, you set your out of office and blah, 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 blah. I get it. However, it's still there.
Yeah, the problem with that, though, like you said, Mark, is when students are up at night trying to get homework done, they're wanting access to the teacher immediately right now because they waited the last minute and didn't prepare. And so their emergency is someone else's emergency, obviously. So they don't care about the teacher's time. So they're going to message that teacher. Oh, well, the teacher's set out of office hours and they're not available. Well, bad review, right?
Yeah,
or whatever.
I don't even know if
complaining. So
even if they're just doing due diligence, they just have a question. I have a question about this note. I have a question about that. I'm still up, so they must be. They don't have the kids don't think about that kind of thing. I have the same thing with my soccer team, right? They have questions, and I'm like, why are you sending me something at 11:30 at night? I'm in bed. I'm old. Oh yeah, sorry.
But there you are, reading it. It popped in.
Well, but I've had to kind of adjust to that, and I can kind of feel like sometimes where like I want to be available for my students or my kids, because I want to help them. So I think there's a little bit of both there, what Justin was saying, but I also want to kind of stick up for some of the kids is they're just living their life, and this is their time that they've dedicated to whatever. And they're
some
trying
kids
to connect.
Don't necessarily procrastinate. Some kids are trying to hold two jobs and do whatever and pay their way through college, and that's the only time they can work on homework and whatever the case is. Everybody's case is different. But we're all getting a little burnt out, I think, with everything.
And I think that's that on-demand piece of it. But then I think even if you look at the no-fooling platforms and all the stuff that's being thrown at instructors and teachers now, and it's every 6 months, the new administration comes in, it has the new shiny silver bullet digital thing that's going to solve all of our problems. We're going to enroll the world. We're going to be on-prem, remote. Everything is going to be happy and just do all this stuff, do all your curriculum like this, and all the autonomy is gone. Now everything you prided yourself on an instructor is out the window. You're going to teach this regimented class with these tools, and in 6 months we'll have new ones. So
that's what I was about to say. So as soon as you learn those tools, here comes the IT assholes to update Blackboard, and now everything's changed.
And I think
overnight.
I think that's a big part of this discussion in this survey too. Is the folks who are unhappy with the use of technology or the use of technology is it's that very thing. They learn how to use whatever exam software you're using. They learn how to use, well, shoot, let's face it, some of these instructors have been using the same Word document syllabus for 15 years.
Scanned in. It was scanned off of an overhead transparency.
And they're happy with it. This is what they're doing.
Scan from a mimeograph.
And then all of a sudden somebody comes in and says, oh no, we have this new software, the syllabus building software, and you have to use it because it has this plugin that goes in with this other thing that goes in with this other thing. And they're like, oh, you got to be effing kidding.
Great. Scan this in for me. I'll be good.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. So I kind of get
Piece
it.
of paper, put it in that system. I'm great.
Even as a person who works in with this stuff every single day, I kind of get it. There's just some times where it's like, what I had yesterday's fine. What do I need to do this again?
Well, it almost seems like technology's supposed to make things easy. And I find myself, even me, everything seems to be more difficult. Either I'm getting old and my hands don't work anymore or whatever the case is, but it just feels like every little thing that we do with technology is just, why does this have to be so difficult? Why can't this be easier?
Have any of you had like those engaged conversations with your centers for teaching and learning or whatever your equivalent may be? I don't know the nomenclature you may have. And have you ever talked about technology in a classroom? We try to do this, and oftentimes we're like, oh, no. We don't want to be anywhere around prescribing or defining what technologies are there. We're just about the teaching strategies. So there's this gap between the instructors and the actual mechanics that nobody wants to own, but yet here we are trying to hold it all up. We're like, we think you want this. Maybe, these surveys say you should be doing these things. We're trying to do our due diligence, but then the actual instructors in those groups are just like, no, we don't want to go anywhere around about like talking about what technology should be in a classroom. We want to have all our instructors be autonomous, do whatever they want with their curriculum. And so we're kind of at odds here. Like, who's driving the ship as what should and shouldn't be there to begin with?
So, and I thought, and a lot of the questions in there were, almost middle of the pack. Like, for as many people that were frustrated with technology, there was as many people that says, hey, it's fine. We're doing great. I also found
my VGA. I just plug my VGA and it just works. It goes.
I just, if I need it, it's there. If I don't, I don't. I found I focused a little bit more on the AI section. They had a whole section on AI, and because I was curious on how that would read as far as is the use of AI. I see personally in my conversations locally that it's either it's cheating or it's helping. Like, there's no in the middle. Like, how can we use this?
Yeah.
So you want it to cheat and help? Like, what is the middle on that?
The story needs to get
but how do you use AI?
We got to get past that cheating thing. We got to stop.
There's two modes you can use AI. You can use AI openly, so you're openly cheating, or you can use it secretly, so you're secretly
shadow
cheating.
AI.
Well, it's how do you use this? I would imagine years ago, it's the same conversation with calculators. Well, you can't have a calculator. Do the math by hand. Why? Yeah. This damn machine does it great. Why do I need to do this? Now I need to understand the principles.
The answer is because you're not going to have a calculator with you for the rest of your life in your pocket. Joke's on them, I do. So
I just strap it to my wrist.
I mean, you're a phone genius.
I went straight to the old calculator wristwatch, buddy.
Yeah, you're changing channels on old TVs. And you were that kid.
All right, so let's look at a couple of these key takeaways here.
I thought it was interesting.
Jesus.
What?
We were getting way off topic there.
Yeah, you guys were on this. You picked one little note, and we're
talking about watch calculators.
All right, so it says 92% of faculty expect to use more ed tech in the classroom. Yeah, okay, get that. 33% believe education technology let me rephrase that. Only 33% believe that higher education is heading in the right direction. I'm not sure really what that means, because that sounds like it's a whole problem of things, but.
It's heading in the right direction or the wrong?
Yeah.
It's heading.
It's too broad a question. Well,
yeah, that seems.
How do you want to answer it? 33% say it's heading in the right, which means 67% means
it's going to the left.
Going the wrong direction.
Going to the left.
I'm in the 67%, I think.
Well, we're not going to get into the rant model right now. That's not today's show.
Are we doing math?
Yeah.
Is that what we're doing?
41% of faculty are reporting burnout, which is correlated with high levels of technology fatigue, like we talked about. So there's just a lot of that, and it's chewing up people's time. They're not able to disconnect. 40% of faculty teaching online believe it's heading in the right direction, while only 20% teaching face-to-face believe it's heading in the right direction. So they really hate being in the classroom. So anyway, link in the show notes if you want to dig through all the details on this. Very comprehensive, very well done to Western Governors University. My biggest takeaway from this is they asked only 300 people, which always bothers me when I see stuff like that.
At one school.
Well, they don't go into the details here. They may be published somewhere else, but it says the survey included data from 359 faculty across a diverse group of higher education institutions, including community colleges, online not-for-profit colleges, and one public four-year institution. Which I read that as only one public four-year institution. So.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of online learning there. That was surveyed.
Anyway.
Yeah.
But always good to see feedback, Mark, as you said, that the teaching side, the teaching mechanic side doesn't always, as much as we would like it to, doesn't always kind of reflect what's going on with the technology and vice versa.
So we'll throw more at it. You know what? They're going to get more technology.
So. Yes.
They earned it.
More document cameras.
Just like 5 or 6 in this room alone. It's great.
Put more in there. Be easy.
All right. Well, let's take a quick break. We're going to debut another brand new commercial, and we'll come back and talk about why we love or why we hate button panels. I guess it really depends on your perspective.
We love button panels.
I do.
Are you tired of those outdated digital signage displays cluttering up your campus? Do you wish there was a way to keep your events fresh and exciting month after month? Introducing Independent Amalgamated Analog Digital Signage, the only service that delivers brand spanking new informational posters right to your doorstep every single month. It's the beginning of the month, and what do you get? A shiny new poster with all the latest event details ready to dazzle your colleagues. Not only will our posters keep your events looking fresh, but they'll also keep you on your toes. Because our posters are printed weeks in advance, the information may not always be correct. But hey, who needs accuracy when you've got style? With Independent Amalgamated Analog Digital Signage, you'll never have to worry about boring clip art, stock video footage, and converted PowerPoint files again. Join the madness today and watch your workplace transform into a poster paradise. Independent Amalgamated Analog Digital Signage. Because who needs accuracy when you've got style?
And yes, that is a poster printing service we now offer, so
yes,
reach out.
You know, who needs accuracy when you got style? I mean, that's it.
I have pre-printed all of my digital signage needs for the rest of the year. It's great.
Coming to a Kinko's near you. Is that even
We just use
cheaper?
and do it black and white at Kinko's is cheaper. So.
It's cheaper.
Yeah, it's quick. It's more
I don't have
affordable
money
anyway.
for color around here.
Yeah.
All right,
Luxury.
so discussion at hand here is button panels, and I can't remember. I'm trying to remember how this came up.
It always comes up.
Well, but what button panels are the new touch panel? I think I think all of us here like the concept of button panels. Justin likes button panels so much he goes and removes buttons from some of them.
No,
He
that's
likes cutting
remotes.
buttons off of
I don't
remotes
do
and stitching
that.
them together as different panels.
That's not what I do. That's what other people do because they didn't listen to the fact that they do need a button panel, so they ended up with a remote.
Isn't that just a button panel that moves around?
It is, but it also
It's
has
a fancy
menu
button
and
panel, yeah.
configuration on it that changes settings, so that's why they started cutting off the buttons. So
an
now it's like
advanced button
power
panel.
on, volume up and down, and power off.
But
all
I
you
think
need.
from the standpoint of a again, we keep using this phrase and we always have to qualify it. A standard classroom, a basic classroom, your entry level classroom,
Yeah,
What tier would
I don't
that
know.
be?
tier
we're not
6.3.
doing. We're not doing that.
Justin doesn't
today.
want to do tiers. How many?
No.
What bucket is it?
I'm tired. We gotta get away. We have
One
to stay
big
away from
bucket.
tears.
But I think
Other.
all of us like the concept of a simple little button panel / processor / whatever that does what you need to do in a normal, regular, everyday 4 square walls and 30 students classroom.
Yes.
Agreed.
All right. Well,
fine.
thanks everybody.
We did.
So
went
what
there,
are we talking about?
So, but
I guess we're
goes
talking
back to
about
my question.
why aren't we doing more of them?
What do you need to get done, like in that basic room? And now, okay, we'll step up, on,
think I
off,
just-
basic volume up and down. We're going to
just went through
assume we
that.
have sound here, Justin. I'm just going to assume that. I don't want to wish cast that on you, but I'm
eyes
going to
got
assume
really
we have
big.
audio, and maybe a source select. I mean, does that need to be a full-fledged touch panel with a glass touch and all that fancy stuff? I mean, shit, put it on the wall, even just like a light switch. I mean, it may sound blasphemous to folks, but
And if you
those
can,
functions are
don't
pretty
put it
core.
near the light switch because that confuses people.
Yeah, put it at the back of the room, so you have to walk all the way in the back and then push it.
I was in a room the other day where the screen controls were not near the light switches were not near the lectern, which was not near the screen controls, which was not near the wall button panel. I was like, great, I guess 3 different people did this one. So
Yeah, you think all the carbohydrates are getting burned in that room.
Just keep walking around in circles.
So, but no, like I keep asking for more button panels that are not old school. I want some more modern IP based simplified button panels. I know. It sounds crazy, but
I want modern features, but in an old school button
yeah,
panel.
I want the old form factor still, just one gang, put it in the wall, PoE, on off, basic stuff, go. Like that's the core.
Does anybody make a one gang?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's some Trons
Tons
out
of
there to do
people.
that. Yeah.
Crestron, Kramer.
Those are all like 2 and up,
Extron.
aren't they?
No.
No.
One.
Okay.
The 101 is
Because
a
we
one
use
gang.
the RDL
Oh,
DC
okay. It
1B.
fits in a one gang, but it's way
Fits in one
Yes,
gang.
it fits in a one gang.
That's what confused me. I was thinking
Yes.
visually of a one gang panel. So
But the
Now-
MPC3 102B is one gang.
and
Yes, which I think is now just the
numbers
101, isn't it? Or one of them got discontinued. Whatever. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
how it goes.
probably the useful one, right?
Yeah. But yeah, they had that little slider in the bottom. It's like, okay, that touch slider is interesting sometimes, but okay.
Somebody
Yeah,
just
so that's a good point.
touch slid Jamie right off
Jamie
the
just
screen.
touch slid himself
Yeah,
right
he's-
off the screen there.
Done. Yeah.
He's out.
He's probably like, huh.
We
what's
were
this
just
pop-up
talking
mean?
about his internet and his 10 meg upload speed. So
He's doing fine. He'll come back when he gets here. He'll call in on his phone.
little pop up on his screen that said update. Oh, I'll click that. Whoops.
again, mentioning the donation page for Jamie's internet. Just throwing that out
We're
there.
gonna mail him some
I would
high-speed
just be
internet.
happy to get all the stuff off my Visa card. But so on the button panels, Mark, you mentioned the ones that have the capacitive slider and things. So we are seeing some newer ish, and even that's 7 or 8 years old. But the old school ones that are the old mushy plastic buttons or the clicky plastic buttons, which I liked because they have that clicky thing, which actually, believe it or not, is an ADA thing. That the physical tactile touch and the audible click is a deliberate ADA
Get feedback.
feature because it's literally feedback. But so let's start in general with the concept of button panels, a simple button panel. To your point, what else do you really need in a room? We're not talking about video preview. Please stop doing video preview and all your shit. We're not talking about
need it.
steering camera controls around or whatever. You can recall presets even on a button panel if you really need to, but at a certain point you have to start determining where your feature sets lie. And yes, if you're in an active learning classroom with 7 cameras and 27 microphones and 48 pods, button panel probably not the right thing to start at. But
That's a studio, not a classroom.
You can do it.
that's a studio
can be
classroom,
done.
Justin. That's an active learning studio classroom. Could I introduce you to my new active learning studio classroom?
That's a lot.
It seats 648 students.
Oh, that's another show.
Yeah,
That's
stop
today.
building active learning classrooms with over 100 students. All right, anyway. In general, then, what is it about button panels that we like as a user interface and as a general AV and control device?
They're cheap. They're
Cheaper.
easy.
Cheaper.
They're easier to program and set up, and you don't have to worry about people going rogue with where the buttons go. You know where they're gonna. you know where those sons of bitches are gonna end up.
Is that
Hey,
a
where's
programmer
my
problem, or
power
are you
button?
are you allowing people to move the buttons on
Yeah,
your
like
touch
no,
panels?
that button doesn't go there. It goes over here. You don't have to have that conversation.
Are you
with
talking
touch
about like
panels.
do you have a rogue programmer who comes in and just decides, you know what, today
Middle of the
volume's at
night.
the top?
Ha-ha.
No, I'm just speaking generically. We have our standard touch panel layout. But I'm just
Okay.
that was the benefits.
So
of
what you're
button
saying is
panels.
a
They're
consistent
cheaper.
user experience, so they know that it's always going to look and feel the same, regardless of what space they're in.
most times, yes.
Okay, fair enough.
Mostly.
I think
We
that, I
don't
think
have
there's something to
the
that.
larger cohort here, but what are the functions you need to have done? Like, what are those core functions? What I just rattled off before?
We
Display on
we
and
just
off?
talked about that.
Yeah, I
on
think
and down, and a couple
it's on
sources?
off. It's source select. It's volume up, down, mute, and
Screen up and down is
maybe-
not an acceptable answer. I'm nixing that.
Good point. Yeah,
Yeah.
you go push
that
the button on the
happens
wall
with
or
the on button. That
pull the
is
stringy
on
thingy.
button. That's the on button. You don't have an extra.
Okay. So
Yeah.
But Justin, what about if I want to roll that screen up in the middle of my class because I
Well,
want to use
that's
the
what the
whiteboard?
backup button on the walls for. That came with
no,
the screen.
That's what the string is. You pull the string and it goes up. It's done.
or the string. You have the string, or you have the button thing on the wall that came with the screen.
Do you think Daylight would
Whatever.
let me get motorized projector screens with a string on them.
I would like to have actually a button on the wall that's just the string. So you still got to pull the string up and down to get the electric screen to go up and down. Like that's what you want.
Oh, you're talking about putting the string in a conduit? We're really talking
No.
nonsense.
The string goes right to the 1 gang box, and that's the button. You got to pull it's like a lampshade. You got to pull the string to go up and
You
down.
could have the button there that all it does is identify where the string is, and so then there's a little beeper on the string and it beeps at them.
There we go.
I think we
That
need
sounds
Jamie
smart.
back to keep us on par.
Yeah, keep us
here.
sane. Okay, so in that, so I'm not even like in love with even the new ones. The old ones I think were still fine for me, like the old CN style one, C2N, whatever. Those, like I still liked those. I just didn't like the old Crestnet.
I like
thing.
the knob for volume.
Oh no!
better
Wait a
than a
minute.
button.
Hold on.
Rotary
You want a
encoder.
Knob.
You want a rotary encoder on this thing?
Think about your car. What do you like in your car? There's buttons and knobs.
I took my steering wheel out. I just have 2 buttons for left and right.
Yep, that's it.
And they're digital buttons. It's
I don't
100%
use the
left,
touch
100%
panel.
right.
I don't use the touch
You,
panel to
you
control
go into
my
the car,
radio.
and you open your
I use
map and
my-
say go there, and it goes there. I don't need a goddamn steering wheel.
Didn't your car break down on the highway and still out there?
Yeah, that's litigation. We're not going to get into that right now.
Do you own a Tesla?
No.
So, Justin, you raise a good point. The rotary encoders, the knobbers, they have an advantage related to specifically to volume because you never have to explain to somebody how do you do the volume because it's the knobber thingy there. The downside is, of course, it takes up space that you may need for something else or want to use for something else. But
Yeah.
I
do you
don't
think
disagree
people
with
like
you.
that? Do you think clients like that, like old school radio knob for volume? Is that like a preferred tactile thing?
We've gotten compliments that people prefer the knob versus buttons because
But is it only for that one feature, or would they be? Are they big fans of the old iPad scroll around iPad wheel knob?
Ooh, I
thing?
miss those.
So
Spin the
we've done
damn
a bunch.
menus.
Biamp still makes those, and they're
I know.
not bad.
Well, they don't make the iPad. They make a new large dial one.
Well, they make one that feels like the old iPods, where you rub your finger.
Oh,
on
the
it,
little
it
touch
moves,
thing?
but- yeah. So that, I don't know. It works, but people don't like that as much. It feels old and antiquated.
But do they like using the rotary to get through selections, or do they just
No.
like
Oh,
that
God, no.
just to be
Oh,
audio?
God.
Just volume.
Okay. They want to be clear because like somebody's like, I'll just program this thing, roll through 1,400 selections. No, that's not.
No,
the
that
answer.
drives me insane. Like when you're trying to figure out settings on an amplifier that has that shit, and you're just, oh my God, I got to keep going. Yeah.
Or on-
Then you go
on your-
past it, and you're like, shit, no,
Yeah.
that's not it. Yeah,
Your
It's like,
favorite
fine,
line
I'm
of
just
all
gonna go
wonders.
get my laptop, get the USB cable out. I'm done with this.
it's like a router switcher with a knob. You're going through 288 endpoints on there.
Hell
Okay,
with that.
so with a processor or without a processor? What do you think?
I
With?
like
What are you
having the
talking about?
I like having the flexibility because there are times, especially with the basic systems, the smaller rooms, having that all in one little device is awesome. But there are times when you may need.
There's a place for just an IP PoE powered single gang button with no brain. There is a
Correct.
space
Yeah,
for that.
as a secondary or something. Yeah,
Where? How? Where?
for secondary control surfaces.
Yeah, like it, so.
If you had an
button,
advanced
whatever.
system, you probably have a touch panel,
I
which
don't know
means
if
you
you
probably
need
have an
six-
I don't
external
think you need it.
processor.
I think you can
You're
get away
just
with
going to
getting all in
six
there.
gang that shit. Just
Why
put
not?
six
No.
together and I need a 6 gang rough fit in the wall now. Like what? What are you talking about?
Why stop at 6? Let's go 10. Shit.
I have 42 buttons in 6 gain. Here we go.
Yes. It's just
There's
like one of
your
those
UI.
drum pad things. You're just up there hitting and playing, and you just MIDI controller, right? Just go.
That sounds.
So the
pretty
places I
stupid.
have used those, Justin, is in an active learning room where there is not a button panel for the main control that has a touch panel with a full processor and all the rest. But the student stations, again, kind of to Mark's
So
initial comment,
secondary controllers.
yeah,
is what
secondary
they
control
are.
because all they're doing is display on and off and maybe select from like the instructor control to their local input sort of thing.
Yeah,
if,
I could see
if you're
that.
giving that level of control, it's arguable whether or not you need that, but that is a common use case for scenarios like that.
Yeah, I could see that. That don't happen often though.
Yeah,
No,
but
you're
I
right.
think you could
I would
even
say
get
if
into
you were
like
to-
a basic, like even a larger auditorium could actually be served that way. You're still the same basic features that exist in a small classroom.
Well, no.
in
I
the
think
larger
we're
auditorium.
beyond that. We're not talking about like
Yeah.
the purpose of the brainless ones.
We started in the basic classroom and now
We're in auditoriums.
No, is the auditorium? Is there a different fundamental goal going on in the auditorium versus the regular small
It's
classroom?
fancier.
It's just
Needs
I
fancy.
don't need 2 UIs in there. I don't need a touch panel and a button panel. So for,
No, I can
for
just-
a
you can
standard
do it with just a button
classroom,
panel.
Yeah, that has a built-in processor. That's why we started talking about this.
Well, I'm going with like, okay, if I have all my stuff away in a rack, I've jumped to the point where I have a rack full of stuff.
in a standard classroom.
I'm talking about auditorium. You're which one are we going to jump on here? Standard.
You brought up the auditorium.
Yes, in a
You
large
brought up the
auditorium. I argue you could still get everything done in the large auditorium with just a button panel. You don't need a touch panel in there either.
There is something to be said for simplifying the user experience down to the point of like, here's your same 6 buttons. You know, what do you need more for? So
Right. Now, I'm not saying multi-display, all this whiz bang, blah, blah, blah. I still think the fundamental purpose is the same. On, off, volume up, source select. Now, I may have like more amps and maybe an AV over IP thing, but I think you can still accomplish all that. And maybe my processor's in that rack over there. It doesn't have to be. I know I could probably wedge it all in one thing on a little tabletop thing, but that's kind of where I want to see just the IP button panel that can connect to.
Well, yeah, and I guess especially if it's something that it's on maybe a slimmer lectern or something that may get moved out of the way, depending on the type of use of the auditorium. A lot of those get used as theaters or as semi-multi-purpose spaces or something. So having something you can disconnect and not break the room, because that was the processor, there's an advantage to doing that. I mean, I have spaces now that are kind of those combo use spaces, and there's a full processor and touch panel in the lectern, which gets unplugged, moved out of the way, and then we get a call that the room's not working. When you try to explain to them, it's because the thing that drives the room just got unplugged and moved out into the hallway.
Well, can you come back and plug it in for us, Chris? Within 10 minutes?
Well, and sometimes they'll get that far. They'll plug it back in and then still call us because, well, it's back on, but it's not working. Like, well, it's also been about 40 seconds. So if you wait about another 7 minutes, it'll be back up and running. So anyway. All right. So I think in general, we'd say button panels, we like them. They have a lot of utility. We'd like to see more of them or more use cases of them, or let me just say the wider use of them in general, I suppose.
Yeah. I want to see more on the market. I want to see more like small button panels. And the whole giant touch panel craze, I think, is kind of, I don't know if it's necessarily needed, and it's an added expense. And
so I will say, when I got to Wyoming 3 years ago, it's one of there's 2 specific cultural things about classroom spaces at Wyoming that I tried to stop, and I got huge amounts of pushback from. One is motorized projection screens installed in the ceiling. People in Wyoming love recessed
with
motorized
hard ceiling. That way, it's up there, it's sealed in there like a sarcophagus.
The number of those that I've had to abandon
for that bill to fix it. Yeah.
Well, and the number of those I've had to abandon in place because I'm no longer using it. There's now a big display on the wall or something. It's just like, so there's a huge sunk cost on that. But I tried to move to ones just on the wall. I've tried manual ones too. Manual, I had people come out of the woodwork to yell at me about that because for whatever reason, they just don't like that. I think because it has the implication.
Because it's extra work?
No, I think the implication is it feels cheap. And there's something about going into a space that feels, even though it's not, it feels expensive because there's a fancy motorized
automation. It comes in, It comes down, it does all the fancy things. Students can see where their money's going. Look at that movement on that wall.
Yeah, that's where money's going. That thing, there's a door that opened and it came out of the ceiling like magic. You know, there's literally that kind of concept, which is weird. But anyway, I even get pushback on just putting a wall-mounted screen. They really like the recessed screens, which is ridiculous. But okay, whatever. The other place I get pushback is I did some button panel systems in my first couple of months, and I got pushback on that because people like the touch panel. They feel it brings you like a fancier experience. You can argue it's worse. I think we see the same thing in cars when you go from tactile buttons on your instrument cluster to the giant touchscreen thing. And I think the touchscreen thing in cars is worse all the way through and through, but yet there's this feeling that it's higher tech and fancy.
I like both. I like having the touchscreen and my knobs in a car. I like
you want a touch screen steering wheel? It doesn't actually do anything. It's just a big screen
for the feedback.
It's swipe, Mark. You swipe.
But I like my buttons for the quick action. Quick action. Touch panels take longer.
So Justin, you're saying touch panel with all the controls on every lectern, but then like a quick access button panel off to the side.
Like in your hip, just in case you need it.
Just in case.
Mute on. Where's Jamie with his whack-a-mole? Mute.
But we do agree, like the button panel on the phone is not the option, right? That's not a thing.
Wait, using the phone as a control surface? Mm-hmm. No, that's terrible.
Primary for sure.
And anyone who does that widespread, I'm driving to your campus right now with a hammer.
Get right to jail.
To do
Just
what?
Get the paddy wagon. I'm taking you
Break all those.
Is that a threat?
Non-existing systems in there. Yeah.
Well, so here's what I've grown like in touch panels. It has to be faster than a phone, or people will hate it.
You don't like the really slow
the
page flip
expectations
ones?
is your phone is your litmus test. Whatever the most prevalent phone on your campus is, touch-enabled phone, your touch panels must respond faster than that device, because that's the expectation. That you all have all the money, so you must have the greatest thing ever. So they expect that touch panel is going to be faster and more responsive than their phone. And that means the projector turns on, things are going, automation's happening, bang, because they just assume that all the money is going into that. It has to be better than the phone in their pocket. So
As long as they have the money, we can do that.
can you?
Yeah.
I don't know if you can.
Pretty quick.
It's
If you have the right parts and the setup in your system. Yeah.
the right kit.
You got
Jamie
the
said his
right
internet is out. So no.
Oh,
So
okay.
Pay your
if,
bills.
if-
Gotta
if
pay
some-
your bills, Jamie.
if somebody in the Kansas City area who's listening
Go
right now,
verify that, please.
could you
Yeah.
get a bucket of internet, run it over to Jamie's house real quick?
He needs it.
He
Just
needs
a cup. A cup full of internet will go a long way.
Well, you need like a bucket. Like 2
Big
gallons.
bucket, 2 gallons of internet.
2 gallons
What's
of
that
internet.
going for now? What's
1
a gallon of
gallon
internet
for
worth?
up, 1 gallon for down.
Jeez.
Oh, I don't know about up and down. He needs 4 gallons of internet.
Whoa.
No, it's 2 and 2.
It's a lot.
So okay, so back to the button panels here. Then, what about the button panels do we not like about them? And that could be both the experience side, but also the common feature sets that they keep getting deployed with.
What I hate is when you don't read the full manual, and when you buy one, you
Wait,
realize
there's a
they
manual
can-
of these things?
There's
They
a
ship with
manual, normally, and you assume because you bought one that they all work the same, but no, that's not true. So you buy it, and it's like, oh, I can only control 3 Ethernet devices with this,
Yeah, I've seen
but
that.
it's Ethernet.
Right.
Why?
Justin, how many
Right,
Ethernet
so-
devices do you have on your campus?
It's a classroom.
I've got
It's-
like 4 total, so that gets me
Yeah.
almost all the way there.
So that was interesting.
But yes,
And
you're right.
then
The seemingly artificial limitation,
One
and it may not be
manufacturer-
artificial. It may be related to processing power because there's no fan, so it's got a
Yeah.
just heat sinks and things. I get that, or limited memory, but still, it does seem strange.
So then you buy one manufacturer button panel, and you want to control another manufacturer's DSP.
Whoa.
And it's just
You're
one-to-one
telling me you
Ethernet.
have different ecosystems in your learning spaces?
Yeah,
What are you
check
doing?
this out.
What are you doing?
Check this out. So, because
Break it down for me.
because I couldn't get those two to talk together, the button panel then required an Ethernet to RS-232 adapter
I'm out.
that would then talk to.
Nope. Put it all in the trash, send it back.
What are we doing? So be careful when you're buying button panels, because Ethernet control doesn't always mean Ethernet control on those things.
Yes. Let's just make that as a little bit of PSA. If you're a manufacturer listening here, if you're making a thing and it has Ethernet on it and it's a button panel, it better be controlling shit. It better not just so it can be online. I don't care.
No.
It has to do things.
It does control Ethernet things, but only if it's within that ecosystem of the manufacturer.
No,
But once that leaves a different manufacturer,
Not an
you
acceptable
have to
answer.
buy the breakout RS-232.
Nope.
It's like, why?
So you're saying because they're providing only the drivers, the modules, the plugins necessary to drive their own
And
devices.
we can't
over
write
that-
the code
Right,
for
over that
it because
specialized
it's a more
interface.
it's a simplified, like we would try to write the code. It's like, nope, you can't do it. You have to do it in this manner. And
You don't want
it
to create
requires
custom
this extra
modules with
thing.
just hex strings all day long.
So yeah.
Just
So
give me the ability to ship a hex string and I'll be fine with that.
some button panels don't always work with the manufacturer's templated programming. So we just bought and I'll pick on QSys here just because it wasn't
Well, it
a
was not their
terrible
problem because
situation.
QSys doesn't make a button panel.
They make
There's a
they
note
kind of
somewhere
do.
about that.
They kind of do.
Jerks.
So I was going to bring this up. They sort of make that C1 thing. That was a Terotech, right? That's not really a button panel. It's like a single knobber button controller
I don't think
LCD
QSys even wants
readout
to
thing.
acknowledge that they own a Teratech.
Well, yeah. So here's another example with that.
Come
So
clean.
if you use their module, you can only do this much with that panel. But if you don't use the QSys module with the Terotech,
what is in that
Yeah,
those rails? Give me an idea what's going on.
oh, I can't remember. Like
Only
like
on,
maybe
no off.
like there was no feedback. There was something we were trying to. It was for our press box, so we had one in each room. We have those that we wanted to do selection of the source and turn it up individually, but because we were using QSys's module, we could only turn volume up and down and mute, and couldn't exactly do what we wanted to. But once you got out of their templated module and wrote it yourself, you can do whatever you want. So button panels are very, people don't necessarily use them the way we intend to use them. So if you're shopping for button panels, 100% buy it first and try it out first before you deploy it, because we did that and we started getting burned a couple times because we bought a few, we tried it out on our basic systems, like, oh, this stuff works. Like the Ethernet control worked, everything that we tried worked. Moved it to a different type of system with a different manufacturer DSP. That one situation, it didn't work. It's like, why? Well, they just don't get along. So you have to buy some more stuff from this other manufacturer to talk over RS-232 with it. It's like,
Okay. So what?
sometimes it gets way more
What about
complicated than it needs
RS-232
to.
just native on the button panel? Yes or no? Obviously, it has to have a processor. Is
Yes.
that something you guys are using?
I want to say yes, but only as a utility. It's not going to be a primary use case.
I mean, I would
need it.
use it. I would like.
Somebody's going to say, well, that's my new screen control. That's like the one.
No, you do that through
maybe,
GPIO. I don't care what anybody says about voltages.
GPIO.
Yes, because it drives 12 volt. I don't care what they say. Do it all day long.
All right.
But to your point, I mean, I think having a 232 port on there has utility, and that requires a 3-pin, 3.5 millimeter captive screw connector, so it doesn't take up a huge amount of space. So you can wedge one of those on there. If you can do that, great. I'm probably going to use it 10% of the time for some nearby device sort of thing. But, or like Justin said, sometimes you have to use a 232 commands because the IP doesn't want to go to something nearby. And if it's nearby, it's right in the lectern or next door or something like that, fine. But I would love to see just more flexible and straight up IP control.
But you definitely want to keep that RS-485 though, right? You need that.
Yes. And if you
got
could
it
Has
on
to
there?
be PoE. Needs to be PoE.
yes, absolutely.
Has to be PoE.
Yeah, it's PoE at this point.
But I would say I would love to have 2 or 3 ports of your selected ecosystem's proprietary control service on there. If you could do that, I love that from all the manufacturers who all have their own mystical,
would you feel
magical
about maybe
bus
like
service.
a DB25 just wedged on the back, and you can modify it out to whatever you want?
Can I get a Centronics on the back, please? A 50-pin
This
Centronics?
requires a 7-inch deep box. So now I have to build my walls deeper for this button panel. Yeah. So don't make special button panels. Just make them basic.
Yeah. Okay.
But on the 232, because I'm looking at my notes here, because we have notes, there's notes. We wanted to bring up unidirectional 232, which does sneak its way onto little devices like this because it saves a little bit of processing power, but it also saves the physical port needed to do that. This drives me up a frickin' wall. I understand the utility, but just what you need to do is when someone tries to order that one, you call them, the manufacturers need to call them and say, what are you doing? Because that's not really what that's for. So
just send it.
if you're going to do that, just use frickin' IR at that point. I mean, what's the point?
Exactly.
Unidirectional 232. So
Speaking of IR, do we need IR on these things?
no.
That's right. That's the right answer.
If you do, you made a mistake.
If you found you're using a button panel and then using IR, just use the remote that the thing shipped with.
Well, what if someone's already cut all the buttons off?
Well, we had a situation where we had to use IR because
Here it goes.
The people wouldn't buy a pro grade TV. So
Oh yeah, I found some of those
what are you gonna do?
In a recent project. They said, and we already bought the displays, so I go over and look at them, and they are off the shelf, like straight up TVs.
So I don't.
And I'm not going to use those.
But they were probably so happy to tell you that. We saved you guys time. We already went ahead and bought all the TVs for you. Don't worry about that. They're saving you so much headache. It's the best.
Yes, they're
cost
saving
us some
something.
time.
Okay, so
Justin, you did mention, I do want to bring up one more thing. You did mention as far as things we don't like, but also things we like, I guess. Things we don't like are the non-PoE button panels. Again, I understand there's some power issues here and there's some processing headroom necessary for that. I get it from a manufacturing standpoint, but it drives me nuts when I see something that's like, hey, this looks like it'd be perfect for this project. Oh, and on the back, there's a little 2-pin 24-volt connector. So now I have to fish power through the wall, and I don't want to deal with that because depending on where you are and your AHJ, you may have different requirements now for that pathway. You can no longer use open void walls, or it becomes a whole thing. I don't want to deal with it. So if it doesn't do enough power, then just like put a big old freaking IEC on the front of the thing and make it ugly, as far as I'm concerned. Because I'm not buying that either.
boom, twist lock on there.
But yes, so they should be PoE powered and do lots of IP control, and that's really what we're looking for in a button panel.
Light and click feedback.
Oh yes, yes.
Right.
Take a
We talked
click,
about
click,
clicking,
click.
but the
Okay.
light feedback, you know,
The
don't
visual
take
feedback.
that for
You want to
granted.
see it? Yeah. Okay.
Most of them have that.
So Mark, I know you use a lot of the ones that are just that kind of capacitive surface on the front. because it's slick and clean, and I get the concept of that, especially when the light is off, the selected light is off, the button is off, it's invisible, it's black, and you don't see it.
Yeah.
Do you ever get complaints or concerns or whatever about the fact that there's no tactile feedback to that?
I don't think so. I think people just want this stuff to just work. I mean, they want to see what's selected, obviously, but I don't think we've got anybody. Hey, I wish I could hear and or see this brighter. Maybe there's a few instances where people are like, hey, can you make that brighter?
People
so I can
probably
see it?
think that, but they're not going to report it.
Yeah, that's going to take time for them to log into some
Man, I
system.
hate this, but I'm not telling anybody.
And blah,
It's like, man, I really wish that I could.
I may want that, but I'm just going to call in
whatever.
on the last 3 minutes of my class and say, hey, nothing works. I got to go. Boom. I mean, that's it. That's how I report that.
Nothing has worked all semester. That's my favorite.
Yes, nothing. Yeah, nothing has worked. It's the last day of class. I don't have time to give you my name, but just send somebody down right now. Bye.
Nothing has worked in this
That's how it
room for
works.
weeks. It's like,
Yes.
really? I still get those. I would say about once a month, you get the throwaway comment about this room never works, or we always have trouble with this room, or nothing has worked in here for weeks. And yet there's 8 other classes in there, and there's no tickets, and we've checked it 5 times in that amount of time. So it's like, what's going on in there? So.
Okay. Well, button panels are a thing.
Button panels are a thing. So we have a note here. There are third-party button panels that you can use with your control system du jour, if that is your choice. So Extron, Crestron are big on button, multiple models of button panels, button controllers, that sort of thing. Lots of options there.
Now, I will say that we do sometimes beat up on the Trons quite a bit, but Crestron and Extron probably are my favorite button panels.
I would say by far Extron and I are like the really old school Extron clicky panels.
Yeah, I like those.
big
I like
plastic
Crestron's.
buttons. Boom,
The
boom,
big
boom,
old
those
plastic
guys?
ones you could take
Yeah.
off and print your own labels and stick them under.
Yeah.
People love those.
The original ones you ordered 14 years ago are still working.
The ones that are still working, yeah.
Yeah.
I like
the-
Crestron's 2-gain with the knob. That's I like that one. That's nice.
The 302, that guy?
302.
With like the
302
actual, like the mechanical buttons that are on it?
yeah,
one?
that one's like 95% perfect.
I may have put one of those on somebody's desk the other day.
They're pretty nice, man.
Like,
I like
kinda
them.
like
without
dropped
them
it.
asking,
Well, I snuck it on there and just like, well, I'm cleaning out my desk. Let me just put this one over here.
install this on their desk.
You know who you
You
are.
ship me one. You ship me your extra shit.
It was hooked to a project. That knob that was on there, that was going to be like the subwoofer volume for a very specific project.
Oh yeah.
terrible.
If you're out there listening, that's what it's for. Yes, I know. But when coaches want it, they want it.
By the way, Extron still does sell the MLC 226 IP, which I believe dates from like
Yeah,
2004.
I remember that.
They did one order of those and just got billions of them. They just sit on containers of them.
That's probably their top selling product of all time.
I would not be surprised, Justin, to hear that something like that they sell tons of those to just school districts and things. Because
Oh yeah.
and that one does have a DB9 on the back, Mark, so you're good to go there. But
No, I know. Yeah, you can do whatever you want.
I do want to. So we did mention Extron and Crestron both have a line of button panels. We like those. I can't speak to AMX because the 2 people who use that are, I don't know. If you're one of the 2 people using AMX, please let us know if they make button panels.
all
I'm
the
not
other
any-
button panels out there for all the other manufacturers, you are definitely beneath Extron and Crestron, so step up your game.
I'm going to point out it's open feedback to QSYS. Where the hell's your button panel? Justin, as you said, yes, there is the C1 from Aterotech. That's not what we mean. And
No, it's
even
not really.
QSYS doesn't want to acknowledge that they own that. Yes, you can use third parties through Key Digital or Kramer or something like that and make that work. I get it, but where's your first party little 8-button panel? It's not difficult. I get it. Your ecosystem is small or whatever, but come on, get with the times. So free feedback and product development for the folks at QSYS there.
What's old is new again. We
but
want it.
Kramer has them for their system. Does Atlona have a button panel? I'm trying to think of anyone else. Who else
have
has little ecosystems with stuff like that?
Atlona, Aurora, Liberty.
Yeah, Liberty has
Kramer.
one.
Aurora
Liberty
does
has
have a
their
whole
own
line.
flavor. Yeah.
The Hall Research set, those white label
Yeah.
ones, those are actually pretty solid for a very
Oh, the
basic
little
room.
room kit one they
Yeah,
have?
yeah.
With the- yeah. Oh, yeah.
There's
We've
like
tried-
6 little buttons and a tiny little knobber.
We've tried all of them, I think.
Well, what's your favorite then?
Yeah, what do you think?
Crestrons.
Which one?
Pick one.
The 2-gain.
The 302?
The 302, yeah.
Or do you like the 201? Do you have to get like the fancy trim
We
kit
usually
thing
buy,
for when you put that
no,
in
we usually
there?
buy the
Yeah, which is the one you
102.
have to use the special tool to get the front plate off?
Oh, the little torque spit thing on the bottom?
Yeah, but you have to like pry it off carefully. And if you just have like, if you tell a tech over the phone that just pops off of there and they put their fingers back there, there's usually a cracking noise. And then they wonder if it's supposed to come off in pieces.
They're responding, I don't know what happened, but
Hey, yeah, this looks like it's broken. Like, did it look like that before you started prying at it with your Leatherman?
No.
No, it's unrelated. So, All right. So button panels are still a thing. We like button panels. We like PoE button panels with lots of IP control, and QSys needs a button panel, because I think that sums up everything we said in the last 30 minutes.
Sure.
Okay.
All right.
Well, I don't know.
Just get us out of here.
We're going to take a quick break. We're going to debut another commercial, and then we'll come back and talk about troubleshooting stuff. Where's this thing here?
Are you tired of juggling between multiple screens and consoles just to get a grasp of your digital empire and keep an eye on all your AV devices? Introducing the game changer you've been waiting for, the All-in-One Console by Independent Amalgamated. A single pane of glass that watches over all your platforms, collating reports and usage details with the precision of a digital maestro. But here's the kicker. It's not some fancy AI doing the heavy lifting. This is AL. That's right, a man named Al.
That's right, folks. I'm Al, your digital sidekick. I manually sift through the data, crunch those numbers, and serve you with the juiciest insights on a silver platter.
With the All-in-One Console, bid farewell to the days of drowning in a sea of screens. Al here ensures you've got everything you need right at your fingertips. Worried about compatibility issues? Fear not. Al's got your back, seamlessly integrating with all your existing platforms.
Whether it's device uptime, routed signals, network traffic, or meeting schedules, I've got it covered.
So why waste time wrestling with multiple consoles when you can have the simplicity and efficiency of the All-in-One Console? Upgrade your digital game today. Visit our website now and let Al be your digital guru. Independent Amalgamated's All-in-One Console. Simplifying complexity, Al at once.
Al is a busy guy.
Al.
All right.
We're sorry for that commercial. That
No
was,
way. Don't apologize.
That commercial's awesome. Justin, you don't like that commercial?
That's the first time I've heard that. That was pretty stupid. Let's move on.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah,
go.
Chris and I hear these things all the time. It's
I've
you
got
right
like
now.
30 more of those to go, Justin. There's a huge
It's gonna
list
be
of
a
these.
long day.
I'm just going to start running them in order. So, all right. For our final segment today. Oh, shoot. I almost forgot again. All right. We're going to try this. House of Cards. Hold on to your butts. Little banner at the
If you're
bottom
listening,
here.
This is for you.
So during our last segment, we're gonna take live calls. So if you're working on something, or if you want to call in and talk to us about what we're talking about or whatever, please feel free to give that number a call. And hopefully this works. I tested it earlier; it was working. So we will see what happens here. But anyway,
Oh boy.
It was working earlier.
Could be
Justin
anybody.
heard it. Witness. All right.
Yeah, I
So
was
for
a
our final
witness.
segment, we're going to talk about troubleshooting. And what we've noticed is the propensity for people to always start with the most difficult solution. So
They always start
let me
with
start
the
on this.
thing that they don't know
Yes.
about.
And
It's
I
like
don't-
the black box effect. It's I don't know about that. We gotta attack that.
So I brought this up in our notes in dealing with outside integration contract services who are covering things for warranty and yada, yada, yada. It always feels like when there's something weird, it's always like you said, the thing they don't know about or the most expensive part of the project. It's like,
It's usually networking
yeah,
these days.
it can be. I've had
Or
people say,
the
"Oh,
control system.
your network is causing problems with
well,
this."
there's that a
No.
lot. Yes.
It's well, no, my network doesn't just randomly spit out shit that way. That's not how it works. But
Sometimes
then
it does.
We've had one instance where they're like, "Oh, it's the whole video switching IP piece. We have to take all that out." And it's like, no, you don't. And it's just always amazing when like you ask a question about something specific, you get no answer. But the problem is always that most complex thing. It's like, can't we? What about all the other easy stuff? Have we tried any of that stuff yet, or no?
No,
Like,
no.
Of course
Why
not.
would you try the easy stuff? It's like, come on.
I mean, I've gone into some integration where it's like, okay, well, that patch panel is not even grounded. That couldn't be a problem. And what about these raggedy looking jumpers in this? That can't be it either. I can't imagine it's any of that stuff.
Yeah.
I think it's. I,
I
think
can
it
see a
goes back to
conductor
the.
sneaking out of the side of that termination. Maybe you want to check that first.
No.
It's coming down to the human part of this, right? And we as humans, what we do, we try to. It depends on the human, but a lot of humans try to
Pick one human.
like. I'm going to look elsewhere for the problem instead of me.
Dan doing it.
Right? And so I programmed this it's got to be a pin 2-3 problem. I installed this, it's got to be a programming issue. I configured this, it must be an installation issue because somebody else installed it. I'm just the configurator.
So whoever's not
That's
there,
usually
it's their fault, their problem.
That's usually what I see of where this starts, and then it goes down these little rabbit holes of these complex problems because the resident expert of whatever is getting blamed is not on site. And that's basically it. That's all it comes down to.
Well, even beyond that, I think there's, and you mentioned the black box effect, which I like that phrasing on that it must be the complex thing that's broken. It's not something simple. It must be in the software. It must be in the programming.
Complex is relative. Like to a network engineer, the network switch is the most simplest thing in our system.
Let me dial it way back to an entry level 2 or 3 year experience AV technician. Something's not working. They want to go into the software. They want to go into the config. They want to talk to the programmer. They want to go through all of that stuff, not check connections. They don't want to check, is something loose or they're, because honestly, a lot of times it comes down to a layer 1 thing. Mark, I think that's how you refer to that.
Yeah, that's how you should troubleshoot.
Beyond that, I think a lot of times, and I've worked with people in the past, I think they want it to be a layer 0 thing. That is to say, they want it to be the device itself. Oh, you're not getting sound? The amp is bad. Like,
just
how did you determine that? Yeah, let's replace things. And I think a lot of that is they want to be seen as doing something and running in and swapping out an amplifier, which has the unintended effect of them re-terminating or reconnecting all the cables, which probably was part of the issue. Yes, it worked. And now they've done that enough that they know those amps die a lot. I'm going to just go swap it the next time there's a problem, even though that had nothing to do with what actually happened.
You're actually terrible at terminating speaker cable is the actual root cause of that issue, is what you're saying. Because that's
clean cut, getting those two cables in there.
I strip it down to just one last little conductor. I break all those strands
one
off.
little piece,
just one.
Barely
That's the
hanging
primary.
in
That's
by,
all you
the
need.
Teeniest bit of that block, right?
But a lot of those, I mean, in a lot of our spaces, we have the ones where the room first, or the system first got installed in the room 12 or 14 years ago. And then 3 years after that, this got changed. And 10 or 5 years after that, we added this. And 2 years later, we added that. And over that time, those cables get jerked around and moved and whatever. And people rarely ever go back and sit down and redress all the cables in a lectern or rack. It's just kind of over time, it builds up crap and something worked its way loose. And that's where you have your bad, I'm just going back to the amplifier, your bad audio. We're only getting out of one channel over here. But the first thing they want to do is swap the amp. And it's like, I think you're looking for a solution where there isn't a problem. And we see that same thing with software and configuration, because I didn't do that. I didn't configure this box. I didn't program the system. I don't know. It's a mystery. It's probably that.
I don't trust it. Someone else did it. I don't trust that person. I don't really understand what's going on in this box. That has to be the problem, right? That's the human part of this.
Well, and you can even have weird things that you wouldn't think get affected, like HDCP can rear its ugly head based on borderline poor terminations of CAT cables running for, HD base T, DM, DTP, whatever you want to use. If something's not making all the correct communication and doesn't handshake in time, or it induces a little bit of latency, especially with HDCP, what are we up to now? 2.98, something like that.
Never ending.
That has ridiculous requirements as far as the amount of time for that handshake to take place. That can cause, that screen in the back flickers. Well, no, what you're seeing is encryption coming in and dropping the image, but it all comes down to a bad termination, or a borderline termination, not a bad termination, but a borderline termination that has been moved around enough and it's just slightly disconnected, whatever it is. And so it can be weird stuff like that. So I would say, start at your layer 1 and start at your simple stuff and work your way up to the complex things, not immediately starting with it's your network, or it's the program, or it's, this mystery box, which I didn't have anything to do with. My thought.
It's always the worst thing. Always. Has to be. No way around it.
Or at least the most expensive thing.
Yeah, and the one that's going to require 2 more visits on site.
Oh, that's... What did you say the other day? Somebody wanted to pull something and then ship it off or something?
Yeah, pull it out, ship it off, leaving the event venue like non-operable. It's like, bro, that's not a solution, like, at all. Like, you can get the thing you think needs to be replaced with and show up with it in hand and then pull the other one out. But I'm not shipping you this back for you to then wait. That's not even a solution.
Well, but they're doing something, right?
Allegedly.
I mean, they're working, sort of.
Yes, they got up in the morning and did something and spent their day doing something, but I don't know if it was very much productivity, but it was something.
The service ticket said make service call, and they did. Job done.
Right. They got paid to show up. They thought their job was just to go there and then go back, but I needed some solution, but that was
that wasn't on the
not to be had. Turns out there was a cable, pin 3 was bad.
Yeah, so look for those simple things, build your work your way up from those as you work your way through the system.
Do you guys take that OSI approach to troubleshooting? Like go through that, like work your way up?
I've never applied that to AV, but that's an interesting perspective, I think. But I do start with like, let's check with connections and let's start with basics and let's see what's been ripped loose. Or the ever popular in classrooms, you see this all the time. Someone has taken the cable out of the lectern and they plugged it in the back of the monitor because they saw a loose cable there, and that's causing the computer to freak out, which now makes the projector blink. And so it traces it all the way down as to what's going on. And all came down to somebody thought they were being helpful and plugged in a cable to the wrong spot, which you experience that enough times. You walk in a room, you see that in 8 seconds. But somebody who's never run into that or is immediately jumping into like, let's get into the program and look and see what's seeing on the other end. It's like, no, you're going to spend hours in there and never come across that.
Well, you get that from people like, oh, I need support or Crestron. I'm just going to call out Crestron. It could be any of your Trons, any of your Sys's of the world. You have a room, and whenever somebody's like, oh, we're going to support that. Oh, I have to go get Crestron certified in programming just to support the room. No, you don't.
I will say, for those of you who are complaining about people's help desk when they answer and ask you basic questions, there's a reason why they're going through a checklist, because it's stupid people that call in with simple problems that waste their time.
Stupid people, Justin. They're people just wasting everyone's time, and by wasting your time. Yep.
That's all it is. You're wasting time.
And that's why it's an open joke. Have you checked your firmware versions and things because a lot of people don't do that. So for every one of you who get frustrated, yes, I've done that. I'm online with TrueBlue. You should bypass all this stuff. No.
Just if you're the one that gets frustrated, just realize like, well, did I do my due diligence?
Do all that stuff. Yeah.
Right.
Because if not, I'm going to say open call to any of you who work at the tier 1 service desks of these major manufacturers. Please send us a list of these people who are not doing that, and we will call them out live.
We'll read down the list.
We will call them literally on the phone and ask them why they don't do that.
There you go.
All right, so
mad. Just don't get mad when other people do that.
Because people do it. I was talking to a manufacturer rep a few weeks ago about this, and they said they are used to they spend so much of the time going on job sites for big projects with big integrators, big consultants, big construction firms, all this stuff, and they spend days doing nothing but firmware. And
on-site firmware pusher?
On-site.
Fixing things.
Fixing, because that's how because it gets escalated to the point where now the manufacturer is shipping out an engineer to go out and look at this. And they spend time just doing firmware because none of that, it's out of the box and racked up, and none of that stuff has ever been addressed. And these are huge, big name companies that are doing this stuff. And these are the same ones who want to charge you $150 an hour to have one of their installers come by. So, yeah. Anyway, it happens to the best of us.
Yeah, they're out there.
And to me. So
it happens to everybody, yeah.
Well, the best of us, and also me. Yeah. Okay, any last thoughts on troubleshooting, any of that stuff? General.
Check the easy thing first.
Check your own work first. Make sure you didn't screw anything up in your own world before you start blaming other people.
Or at least,
fair enough,
check your work while you're blaming other people.
Yeah,
and that's
you can hang up afterwards. Right?
Yeah, it's a tightrope there.
Yeah. All righty. Well, we'll roll out of here. We'll be back next week with what are we doing next week? Next week, are we doing? I don't remember. We'll be back next week, Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Pacific-ish, with another show of some amount of content. Thanks to everyone. We're going to start streaming live every week because we're just doing it anyway. So, Justin, that means you do have to wear a clean shirt. So just
underwear is optional. You don't have to worry about that.
I got it together today.
He mentioned it today. He gets on the call. He's like, wait, are we streaming today? Oh, you better get a better shirt. So
I see Chris is all dressed up with his background. I was like, oh my God.
Well, look at this. I mean, we had crafts time over here.
Oh, I forgot. Yeah, hold on. Let me fix that for you, Mark. There you go. Look at that.
There it is.
Just done that the whole time.
Just to distract. Just to call out. So, all right. Well, we'll be back next week with another live show of all this stuff. And we are going to start doing the call thing every show towards the end. So we'll just get used to that. If you have questions, you want to talk about what we're talking about, or you want to just yell at us about how dumb we are, we'll take those calls.
That's fine too. So, that's totally acceptable call.
All right. Well, it's an expected call because
that happens all the time at work. So it's okay.
just constantly. It's on my calendar hourly.
Yeah.
I have another person come over and tell me how wrong I am about stuff.
Pretty much.
All right.
Well, we'll do that, and we'll see you guys next week. Thanks, y'all. well, we've managed to ruin yet another episode of AV SuperFriends Off the Rails. You can contact us with questions, topic ideas, or general complaints at mailbag@avsuperfriends.com. If you complain loud enough, we might just invite you on the show.
Nice work, everyone. Sharp broadcast. Really good. Everyone on the floor as well. Really a lot of hustle. I liked it.
The opinions expressed by the AV SuperFriends are solely those of the individuals and do not represent their respective institutions, organizations, companies, or clients.